Cellular respiration. There are three stages in cellular respiration: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. Cellular respiration is an aerobic process, meaning it uses oxygen. The formula for cellular respiration is glucose plus oxygen yields water, carbon dioxide, and energy. Glycolysis. Glycolysis is an anaerobic process, meaning it does not use oxygen. The process of glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm. Glycolysis takes glucose, energizes it with two phosphates from ATP molecules, and splits it. This creates two pyruvate molecules and two ADP molecules. The pre-Krebs cycle step. This process really does not have a name, but it is in between glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. One of the two pyruvate molecules produced in glycolysis is split, releasing carbon dioxide. A pair of electrons are transferred from the two-carbon compound to an NAD molecule, forming NADH. This now attaches to a molecule called coenzyme A, forming acetyl-CoA. The Krebs cycle, also known as citric acid cycle. The Krebs cycle takes place in the mitochondrial matrix. This cycle is kicked off with the transfer of the two-carbon part of acetyl-CoA to a four-carbon compound. Quite a few chemical reactions occur, keeping the Krebs cycle very busy. Electrons transfer to the electron carrier molecules NAD and FAD. The chemical reactions occurring in the Krebs cycle. NAD is energized to become NADH. Carbon dioxide is released. ADP is energized with a phosphate to become ATP, and FAD is energized to become FADH2. The reactants and products of the Krebs cycle. The reactants are 3-NAD, 1-FAD, citric acid, and 1-ADP. The products of the Krebs cycle are 3-NADH, 1-FADH2, 3-carbon dioxide, and 1-ATP. Remember that there are two halves of the glucose molecular process, so double these. The Krebs cycle occurs twice for each glucose molecule. Cellular respiration. There are three stages in cellular respiration: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. The electron transport respiration is an aerobic process, meaning it uses oxygen. The electron transport chain occurs in the inner mitochondrial membrane. Glucose plus oxygen, the energy carrier molecules we discovered earlier, release their energy by transferring them to the large electron carrier proteins. Glycolysis is an anaerobic process, proteins are meaning it does not use oxygen. They use the energy from the carrier molecule to pump two hydrogen ions through the membrane. Glycolysis takes the mitochondria, energizes it with two phosphates from ATP molecules. The chemical reactions occurring create electron transport chain molecules and two ADP molecules, giving two of its electrons to the first protein, becoming NAD. Two hydrogen ions are then pumped out from the matrix. Electrons are then transferred to the second protein. This process really does not have a name, ions, but it is pumped out glycolysis in the Krebs cycle. The electrons transfer the third pyruvate molecules produced in glycolysis is electrons transfer the fourth protein, carbon dioxide, and two hydrogen ions are pumped out and are transferred from the two-carbon compound to an NAD molecule. The de-energized electron, NADH, then combined with two hydrogen ions and an oxygen, now attaches to a molecule called coenzyme A, forming acetyl-CoA. Chemical reactions of the electron transport chain. This is very similar to the process we just learned about, but it is similar in the way that it happens, but FADH2 is the difference. The Krebs cycle. Also known as citric acid transfers electrons to the second ion. The Krebs cycle takes place in the mitochondrial matrix. It is de-energized to become FAD. Of the two-carbon part of two hydrogen ions are pumped out to a four-carbon compound. The electrons transfer to the fourth protein. Chemical reactions occur, keeping electrons transfer the fifth protein and two hydrogen ions are then pumped out. Electron carrier molecules, NAD de-energized electrons, combined with two hydrogen ions and an oxygen. and water is formed. The chemical reactions occurring in the Krebs cycle. The reactants and products of the electron transport chain are to become NADH. The reactants carbon dioxide is released. 1 NADH, ADP is energized to phosphate to become and 6 ATP, hydrogen ions, which are pumped out, and FAD is energized to become FADH2. The products of the electron transport chain of the Krebs cycle are 1 NAD, 1 FAD, and 1 water atom formed at the conclusion of the process. 1 FAD, citric acid, and 1 ADP. The products of the Krebs cycle are 3 NADH, 1 FADH2, 3 carbon dioxide, and 1 ATP. Remember that there are 2 halves of the glucose molecule process, so double these. The Krebs cycle occurs twice for each glucose molecule. The electron transport chain, or ETC. The electron transport chain occurs in the inner mitochondrial membrane. The energy carrier molecules we discovered earlier release their energy by transferring them to the large electron carrier proteins. 3 of these 5 proteins are ion pumps. They use the energy from the carrier molecules to pump 2 hydrogen ions through the membrane and out of the mitochondria. The chemical reactions occurring in the electron transport chain are NADH giving 2 of its electrons to the first protein, becoming NAD. 2 hydrogen ions are then pumped out from the matrix. Electrons are then transferred to the second protein, and 2 hydrogen ions are pumped out from the third protein. The electrons transfer to the third protein. The electrons transfer to the fourth protein, and 2 hydrogen ions are pumped out in the fifth protein. The de-energized electrons then combine with 2 hydrogen ions and an oxygen, and H2O is formed. Chemical reactions of the electron transport chain. This is very similar to the process we just learned about, but it is similar in the way that it happens, but FADH2 is the difference. FADH2 transfers electrons to the second ion pump, the third protein in the chain. It is de-energized to become FAD. 2 hydrogen ions are pumped out. The electrons transfer to the fourth protein. The electrons transfer to the fifth protein, and 2 hydrogen ions are then pumped out. The de-energized electrons combine with 2 hydrogen ions and an oxygen, and water is formed. The reactants and products of the electron transport chain are 1 NADH, 1 FADH2, and 6 hydrogen ions, which are pumped out of the matrix and into the outer membrane. The products of the electron transport chain are 1 NAD, 1 FAD, and 1 water atom formed at the conclusion of the process.